art really well. So yeah, like he was just like, "Oh, these look awesome already." I was like, "Yeah, that game looks great, dude." And so he was excited to work on them for sure.
This one that I posted is still, I think, my favorite one. Just all of the different traits with the brass knuckles, the earrings, the colored hair, the carrot sword. Like it totally captured sort of the hooligan spirit, which I'm a big fan of.
Here's a bunch of them.
Oh man, you guys are going to get the alpha. You're going to get to see a whole bunch of them.
Yep, here's a whole bunch.
Yeah,
like 5 or 6 different ones. But we've got a bunch. I think he did. I forget how many he did, but it was a lot.
Need a pink. Yeah, paintball gun pixel. What time? All right, 7:01. So I see Slar's here, Ron John's here. Hey guys, glad you made it. Juicy's here. Hey Juicy. Glad to see a nice mix of folks from Hooligan and from DMX. Thanks for coming out tonight. So we're here for about an hour. That's going to lead then into game night in My Pet Hooligan. I'm actually super excited to be able to talk with Slacks today. Back during the bull run of ETH in 2020, 2021, we used to have different stages where Luke Skyhopper would talk with project teams about their upcoming releases, the mechanics, what they were hoping to build. What's really exciting about this, well, one is we haven't done one of these in a really long time. But what's exciting is we actually get to talk about a game that has been out. And that's really rare in Web3. So I think some of our time tonight is just going to be letting Slacks talk a bit about Dimension X. And then I'm going to show what the game looks like currently on Flow. So I've gotten a lot of message from folks in My Pet Hooligan who are saying it'd be great to get a better understanding of how the game works. So we'll just sort of like do a show and tell, and I'll let Slack surf. And if someone else from the community wants to jump up and sort of say, "Hey, Tickle, you don't know how to place your heroes right," which is often the case, we could sort of get like a live demo of that. So super excited to have Slacks here. So Slacks is the founder. Well, I don't know about founder, but certainly CEO of Cthulhu Studios. Yeah. He's also the founder and CEO of Iron Horse Games. That group has produced 42 different digital games on iTunes and Google Play. And when I tell you that these guys know games, like Mike and team know games. So like their game Idle Armies, it was named by iTunes as Best of 2016. Their game Tap Hero was Touch Arcade's Game of the Week. Another game, Solitarica, was named by Touch Arcade as Best of 2016. And then Tap Tap Dig was featured by Google Play in their editor's choice listing. And so the reason for sort of giving a very small resume is that this is a team that's releasing a game that already has a game and has produced a lot of games. So they know how to build, they know how to make things fun, and they've been recognized for their work. So welcome, Slacks. Thanks for being here. How you doing today?
Man. I'm good, man. Call me Mike. I'm like, Slacks. It's my dad.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You just never know who wants to be whom where. But that's another great thing. Slacks goes by Mike. Like he's doxed. And we're the team at DMX are doxed.
That's right. Yeah. So thanks for the background. I can talk a little bit about Iron Horse and also talk a little bit about Cthulhu and Dimension X if you're up for it.
Yeah. Here's one thing I have to say. Just about you. So not only is Mike like big on games and great at developing games, he actually also has like an encyclopedic knowledge about comics in a way that no one else I've met does. Like, and this may be showing my age. Do you remember, Mike, like Rock and Roll Jeopardy, like back in the day on VH1?
100%.
Right. So I remember one of the first episodes, Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray, like the lead singer from Sugar Ray was on there, and he just crushed everybody. And people were like, how does this guy know so much about music history? You're the Mark McGrath of comic book knowledge.
I think that's a compliment.
It is a compliment.
I'm going to take it as one for sure. Yeah, when I was digging through comic boxes over the weekend, I was with another buddy who's like, "Oh, I'm a comic fan." And I was like, "Cool." And then basically I was just like, "Yeah." He'd pull a book out, you do a glance at the cover, and then just go into like a fugue state and talk about the creative team on it and like that period in comic history. And if you love it, you just kind of remember this stuff. So It's fun. Yeah. So as Tickle was saying, I'm Mike. I am one of the co-founders of Cryptulu. So we have 5 co-founders at the company. We're made up of veterans from free-to-play mobile gaming. So we had all worked together previously at Iron Horse. That's how we all knew each other. So our CTO, Mark, is the developer of Tap Tap Dig 1 and 2 and a bunch of other games. Darren, who's our chief design officer, worked on Idle Mine RPG and a bunch of other titles, including Idle Zombie Superhero, which I'm still really proud of. Dark and I worked on Tap Squadron and a few other titles together, including Idlewell. Steph and I worked together at Iron Horse 2. So we have a lot of experience, both individually, but working together collectively as a team. We put out a bunch of titles, as you noted, on iOS and Android. Some of those I developed or designed myself. A lot I was publishing and helping improve those games. So we know a lot about distribution and just generally executing a game and also live operating it, which I feel like is really important if you're going to be a game developer. I think, yeah, so in 2020, we had one of my close friends who's in games reached out to me about Web3, and I got to be honest, like he described it to me, and I was like, "Look, man, it's not for me. Like, I don't really think crypto and NFT games make a lot of sense to me." And he chopped down a bunch of my arguments with one simple question. It's like, "Well, what's your favorite game?" I'm like, well, I love World of Warcraft. I played it for most of my life. He's like, what do you own in World of Warcraft? I said, well, I own my heroes, right? All the characters I play with over the years and all their achievements, they're mine. He's like, you don't own those, you rent them. And as soon as he said that, I was like, shit. Like there's
yeah.
It was that kind of eye-opening moment of like, oh, this is not only is this important, specifically with companies that kind of disappear at the drop of a hat. But you see that in Web 2 as well as Web 3. But it's important because it represents an evolution in the free-to-play games model, right? On one side, you have games like Diablo Immortal, where you can spend $1 million and you've got the experiences that you can show for it, right? And then it's done. On the other side, you have NFT free-to-play games. And look, you can spend the same amount of money, right? A lot of these games are really expensive. But the reality is you have something to show for it outside of the memories that you made playing the game. When you're done, you have those NFT collectibles, and you can either sell them or you can keep them. It's not a slam dunk or a guarantee that they're going to always be worth anything or worth what you paid for them, but that's not the point, right? The point is that you have the option, and that option doesn't exist across any of free-to-play and any other space. So when the team and I started talking about it and talking about the opportunity, that was and remains the big driver for us, which is this is a superior model for developers, but also for players and consumers. And it represents new problems. I think, Darren's here, or he was here. I think he quietly ducked out. The reality is free-to-play mobile is a solved problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what that model looks like. Every top game is the same, more or less, within their genre on iOS and Android. Web3 is new. There are new problems that you're solving. They're complicated problems, right? There's a new relationship with the community. Those things for me are fascinating. And it's part of the reason why we went as fast as we did to get a title into the market, because there's so much we didn't know. And I think there's so much that you can't really know until the game's out there and alive. The problem with it is once you're out, it's like a tightrope walk, right? You have to keep it alive. You've got to continue to push content, but that content has to not disrupt the apple cart too much, or else you're going to drive away your players. So it's this really careful balance, but it's been a wild ride so far.
Yeah, I think everything you said resonates with me in terms of like why to get into games in Web3, like you actually can own instead of rent. And even what you said around There's new challenges, and it's not until you release it that you really start to get an understanding of what is it you're going to need to do. One outworking of that you and the team do really well is you are constantly engaging with the community about what to balance in the game. So for the hooligans here, right, when you're playing the alpha version of the game, and this is not a commentary on AMGI Studios that produces the game at all, but you have developers and you have players, and often there's a pretty big gulf between the developers and the players. But that's not the case in Dimension X. The team is always, as soon as a release comes out, is, Mike, you and the rest are, what do you think? What do you like? What don't you like? And you guys respond to community feedback in terms of balancing the system, thinking about the kinds of buffs, the debuffs, and just the ancillary components of the game.
Yeah, I'd love to tell you that we came out of the box that way, but we didn't. We didn't. Yeah. It was a transition. The relationship with the community in particular is constantly evolving. When we started, we came at it from a very Web 2 perspective, which is we'll build something, we will give it to you. You can give us some feedback on it, but we control the vision of the game, right? We're charting this course, and for the most part, we are still charting the course of what the game is and what it will become in the future. What we found out, practically speaking, is you've got an entire Discord full of people that are passionate enough to play the game, and then also to take the time out of their day to give you feedback on the game. If you're not going to listen to them, what are you even doing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the point? What's the point of any of this stuff? The thing that's been kind of refreshing from my perspective is, we're not dumbing anything down, right? I think lots of times in Web3, you see projects or teams say like, oh, hey, here's a softball, throw it to the community, right? And they can answer it and they'll feel like they're involved. Isn't that special? Like a little head pat for the community. We have Harvard-educated lawyers in our Discord. We have game developers in our Discord. We have folks who are extraordinarily well-versed in financial institutions in the US and abroad in our Discord. Like, those folks are experts in each of their individual fields, or at least have something extraordinarily interesting to. It's smart to on a real level. They can do it, right? When we do feedback together on design of the game, I tell them what the requirements are. I tell them what the goal is. I tell them no often, right? And they tell me no often, right? I'll put out ideas and they'll be like, that's not going to work. And it's really refreshing to have that dynamic with the community where it feels like we're actually in it together, and like folks have the same objectives working together, which is pretty incredible. I think it's not only is it novel, if this represents the future of communities in Web3 and hopefully in Web 2, sign me up. I love it.
Yeah, and one of the old, I say old when the NFT space is only a few years old, but we all sort of talk about how we age like a decade in this space. But certainly a few years ago when, and to some extent now it's still true, when we talk about the quality of a project, it's like it's art, community, utility is what people almost always say, at least on in the ETH realm. And Dimension X kind of knocks it out of the park with all three. Like, people love pixels, pixel art. The community is top notch, and the product is fun. So on the product itself, maybe if you could talk for a few minutes about Dimension X, the high level sort of 30,000 foot orientation to the game for the hooligan users. I'll share my screen in a couple minutes, and you can kind of do a bit of a guided walkthrough. But yeah, just talk about the game, and then maybe if you could talk about your philosophy about floor price, because I think that will also be refreshing for people.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Dimension X, I'll give you guys the pitch that I give everybody that doesn't know Dimension X and has never played it. The game, really, when we set out to make Dimension X, Darren and I and the rest of the team sat back and we said, look, we need to make something that's familiar to Web3 users. So what is a typical usage pattern for Web3 users? Well, you spend a lot of time in Discord, you spend a lot of time on Twitter, you spend a lot of time talking to each other, you spend a lot of time thinking and coming up with a plan, and then you put that plan into action, but the action is really like a handful of clicks, right? You're not doing a whole lot. And we said, all right, well, if we're going to match that, that lines up really well with idle game mechanics that we build in other games that we had done at Iron Horse. So we said a lot of the mechanics that we're already well versed in are really going to work with the typical use patterns that you see in Web3. And that turned out to be correct. For Dimension X, it's a very simple game on its surface. You get a set of heroes or sidekicks, and you have a bunch of different boards that you can play them on. Your goal on those boards is to deal the most DPS that you possibly can. And you do that by trying to match up the powers on heroes with the powers that are on the board. So if you have a fire hero, you're looking for fire nodes. You put him on that node, and he deals more DPS as a result of their fire powers matching. There are also arrows that kind of push damage along a chain, so you can share DPS from one tile to the next. And every quest is a PvP quest, so you're playing against every other player playing on that quest at any given time. That's it. It's very simple. Your goal is to deal more damage than other players on that quest at the same time. The NFT loop for the game is very simple too. If you want to earn an NFT in Dimension X, beat other players to earn Thule, which is our in-game currency. You can get 1,000 Thule and mint a hero. That's it. Very simple. We had also, one of the things that we saw when we started in Web3 was these very complicated play and earn loops, right? They're like, well, first you got to send feet pics to the CEO of the company. Now, obviously, like right out of the gate, send some foot pics. Second, you need to bury one of those foot pics in the backyard for 20 hours, not 19, not 21, 20. And then we're going to give you a foot token, which can be exchanged in 700 days for an NFT that can then breed with another NFT to create a playable token in the game. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is the worst design I've ever seen. So the reality was, like, we wanted to make it very simple for what it looks like to play the game and to earn NFTs in the game. I think there's some other stuff that we did. Yeah, sorry, BP. That was our first draft of what minting looks like. You'll find that a lot of tropes in Web3 I push back and rebel against quite a bit. One of them was the idea that you'd launch an NFT without having the product also launch alongside with it. It's like, well, if the primary purpose for these NFTs to exist is for them to play a game, you should play the game with them. So we launched the game on the same day we did a free drop on Flow, and we'll do the same thing on Ethereum. The second thing was it's a game. You mentioned floor prices coming into it, right? And some of the secondary market stuff that's usually associated with Web3 games. I'm very, very focused on the fact that we're making a game first and foremost, and that the decisions that are best for the game and for the community playing the game are the most important ones, not the floor price, not the secondary market volume or anything else. I'm keenly aware of what is expected in Web3, and I find I revolt against it very strongly. We do care about rarity, but I don't care about rarity as it pertains to secondary markets. I care about rarity because if there aren't rare things to play for and to earn in the game, you won't play the game anymore. And that's the whole point. So yeah, for me, like, floor prices are one of those things where I'm just like, it's not something I keep a really close eye on.
Yeah, you're being exceedingly humble in the way you're characterizing your view on floor price, which is appropriate coming into a new community. But for a lot of folks on ETH, and for I think you're saying, Mike, rightly so. Like, for the devs, you focus on the game, making it fun. But I think it is worth for the hooligan community here from me, because a lot of folks here have been around since day one of when this Discord opened, which is 18 months, maybe we're coming up on 2 years ago. It's a 14K collection on Flow with about 2.2 million in volume. And this is not you've just gotten a few folks into the game and they've just happened to stick around. There's active trading, there's active purchases. Do you know offhand? I'm assuming you do. Like what's the daily average user?
So I think over the last month it's tipped down a little bit. We're in the like 900 range, so 900 players, but spikes up to over 1,000 during events and other things. One of the reasons we're going to Ethereum, obviously, is get more eyeballs and more players. Look, we were a free mint, so the way my wife talked to me about it when we launched, she's like, "Well, what happens if everyone thinks your NFTs are worth nothing?" I was like, "Sweetie, I got some bad news for you. They're worth nothing."
Yeah.
She was like, "Well, what happens if they think the opposite?" I was like, "Well, then that could happen too, right?"
And what's comforting with that perspective is, what I would say is you're not just saying it, you've lived it, right? Because I was in the Discord when the floor price was like 100 or so. And I've been in the Discord when the floor price is 30, and your philosophy has always been the same. I don't care about the floor. I just want to make the game fun. And so for a lot of the hooligans here, right? If the daily average users is it's 900, and you have an active community, it means that there is a polished, fun product that people want to invest their time in some way their money in. And what I want to say about the game, because I've been a gamer, like I still have on my bookshelf in my office at the university, like I have my old Atari system. Like I've kept just about every video game system that I've ever played on. And DMX is one of the most fun games I've ever played. And not just most fun Web3 games. It's one of the most fun games, period. And that's because it's sort of, to your point, it's in some ways deceivingly simple. And it doesn't take much effort. It's every 4 hours or so, there's a couple new boards. You've got some turnover every 24 hours, some turnover every week. It's a low investment game that's actually highly rewarding, both kind of like cognitively, like when you're thinking about your strategy, it's actually engaging, but it's not a time suck. It's not something you need to spend hours per session on. You're probably spending about 10 minutes or less per session of loading up your boards and then going back to life. And for me, being in my mid 40s, that's the kind of game I'm looking for. Something that's intellectually stimulating, fun strategy, good community, but I can kind of Ronco it in terms of like set it and forget it and go back to my IRL stuff.
Yeah, that's one thing that we're aware of, which is how do you cast the biggest net here, right? Like how do you ensure that is as broadly appealing as possible? And this is just mobile stuff, right? We practice this day in, day out, making mobile free-to-play games, which is how do you make games that aren't divisive, have depth, but are very simple to onboard into. And it's easy to talk about those things, and I think it's actually really challenging to do it. So I am very proud of like the fact that Dimension X is a skill-based game, and the outcomes in Dimension X are driven by skill. We have players who have, modest collections, and they can compete, right?
Yep.
If the board rolls for them and they've got a good enough strategy, they can win or get close to winning. We spent a lot of time trying to make sure that was how the game worked, and I think our community and the fact that people are still playing the game, still enjoying the game, still providing feedback to us about the game is a testament to our success in that regard. It's a moving target, right? Every new feature you have to make sure you're building it in such a way that's broadly accessible, and it's going to have utility not only for free-to-play players, but for smaller, more modest collections, and then for the big collections too. But I think we've got our arms around it as well as anybody can at this point. It's very difficult though.
Yeah, I think you walk the tightrope very well. Daga just posted, and I think it's worth saying, like, yeah, it's 10 to 15 minutes, maybe every 4 hours at times. So not per day, because once those boards reset, sometimes there's sort of like a fever rush to get logged in, your board set, and then go back. And I remember I think it was kind of November, December, where it wasn't a rule. It wasn't a hard and fast rule, but it was you or someone else saying, guys, don't set your alarms for midnight. Don't wake up in the middle of the night to play this game. Like, stop the FOMO. But we couldn't. It's too fun to wake up in the middle of the night knowing you've got a board to set, and maybe that will actually result in the top 10 finish.
Yeah, I got roasted for that, by the way. I was like, hey guys, cool out. You know, don't play in the middle of the night. And you're like, don't tell me what to do. And I was like, whoa, geez, all right. Well, you guys should sleep more. I think we'll see a lot of that with Ethereum as well. I think when folks, especially new folks, kind of get their arms around how the game works. And then, you know, they also get to experience what it was like for everybody on the flow side when we minted, right? Like, you know, that day one, there were NFTs moving for $1, like $1.
Man.
And yeah, if you want to have an existential crisis, you should do a free mint and a free to play game that you spend enormous sums of money on and effort, and then see people trading NFTs for $1. I say I don't care about floor price. I don't care about floor price, but seeing things move for $1, it's like, oh, I'm gonna die. Like that's a special punishment.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think everybody gets the chance to go through what we went in the early days on Flow. And I think those are some of the best memories for our community. It's the most excitement that the community's had. So I'm super pumped for new players to see it, for players who came on later on the Flow blockchain to check it out. I think it's gonna be pretty awesome.
So with the idea of getting excited for new players to check things out, I'm going to share my screen now.
Yeah.
And there's a couple ways we can do this. It might be easiest. Actually, I can't do 5 things at once. So my ADD is facilitative sometimes. Other times it just is wrecking me. Is the stream sharing right now? Can people see the?
I cannot.
I see a little thing above my other thing that says there's a video, but all right, this is gonna, it worked earlier. Let me see if
cool. This is always the way it goes.
Yeah, it is. Like I tested it out earlier today and it was totally fine. If not, then oops. It's still there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, my Discord is rugging now, so it's at the refreshing screen.
Perfect. I'll fill for time.
Yeah.
Don't yeah, people are calling you a boomer.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm a boomer. Oh, gosh. I hate you all.
It happens. Yeah, so we just launched season 4 in Dimension X. Seasons are about 3 months long. This last one was about 4 months long. Every season comes with a new boon. Boons are the bonus that appear on 2 power heroes that you can mint in the game. So the heroes that you can mint in the game are unique, and we come up with a new mechanic for them every season. This season's boon is called Commander. I'll drop something in chat so you can check out what that looks like. This is what the Commander effect looks like on heroes. I think it turns out pretty good. So commanders can buff themselves, but they can also buff other spots on the board at the same time. When we talk about easy to learn, hard to master, really what we're talking about there is trying to do the most damage that you possibly can do on a board. And what you'll find if you play Dimension X, it's moving around your unit can really unlock incredible amounts of damage and unexpected amounts of damage too. So the more heroes you have, the more complex analysis goes. Choosing which boards to compete on are also really important. That's a key component of Dimension X as well. So yeah, there's a ton there to dig into, but the new season has new boons. We have new equipment, new boards, new factions, and we're going to have a limited time event coming up soon, which would be awesome. How you looking? Better, worse?
Yeah, I just got back, so it's of course not doing anything I want it to do. I'm going to try one more time. I heard like 90%, so thanks for sharing that. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, so you talked about the current boon. Maybe you could talk about the sort of mechanics related to the upcoming mint on ETH. Because we're in season 4 on Flow, what does it mean to be season 1 in ETH?
Sure. And I can also share my screen too. Let me see if this works.
Of course, your screen's going to work.
There we go. Everyone seeing it? All right.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right. So this is what Dimension X looks like. If you haven't seen it before, you're going to lousy characters and my poor rank. I don't compete with players on production, which I think is very important. As the developer, I'll compete with our team on the dev version of the game, but not the live version of the game. So each of these represent a different quest. You can see the faction that you're going to get experience points for in the upper left-hand corner. These are the 4 factions that we have running this season, and you can see the rewards for each of those factions here. This is a sidekick. Sidekicks have 1 power that's associated with them. They're account bound. So we get this often. People get into the game, and they're like, I got my heroes. Sell them. And you're like, not these guys. These guys are account bound heroes that allow you to play the game. These are power tokens. Power tokens can be used to level up a hero's power. Each hero has 2, 3, or 1 powers. I don't have any 2-power heroes, but I have some 1s. And then these are my Genesis heroes. So if you're curious, I got this hero because I held a card from a billion years ago for the Ethereum version of the game. Same with this one. And then I did the mint so I can make sure that it worked properly. And sure enough, it did. So this is my collection if you haven't seen it before. Going back to the map, you press battle, and this is the grid. So this is what we were talking about before in terms of the grid, and what you're trying to do is to match up the powers on a hero. So this hero is magic, ice, and nuke. So I'm looking for something with ice and nuke, ice and magic, or some combination of these two, since there's only 2 on the board. I think there's nothing that's a perfect match here. We'll just go with ice. So I put ice in the upper right-hand corner. This character's starting to deal damage, right? So stealing 320 damage to the boss. That damage is going to stack up, and you're trying to deal more and more damage over time. As you put more heroes on the board, we're going to do this one actually. I'm going to put the magic hero here. You can see that these arrows activated. So this is passing, I think it's 10% of the damage from the chain on. So this hero is passing 10% here and then further down. We're going to put another hero on here. Our DPS is improving. You're starting to see these things in the upper right-hand corner. These are perks. At the highest levels of the game, these are the things that folks are really trying to activate at a really high level. So those are perks that are kicking off there. And this character is passing damage here. And you can see that there's other arrows that are also feeding into this character. So if I were to put a character here, they're passing into the center. If I were to put a character here, they're passing into the center. So this is important. 367, this hero is passing 40 blades plus its DPS into this hero. So you're getting 523 damage, which is quite a bit. So this is it. You're mixing, matching, and trying to optimize your board and your lane, putting all your heroes down so you can deal the most amount of damage possible, trying to get your connectors running so you can deal as much damage there as possible, and competing against other players. So this quest currently has 4.41 million damage on it. It's also got a bunch of board modifiers here. So if you click buff info, this will show you all the specific board modifiers that are happening. So if I put down 7 ice powers, every ice hero is going to deal more ice damage. This is a sidekick level 21 gate. So any sidekicks below level 21 will get a 1.6x multiplier. blade gets 1.1x, not good enough to go for there, but any blade gets 2.25x, hell yeah, you're going to go for that. Same with bug. So there's a ton of different ways to play the game, ton of different ways to deal damage. Even though I work on the game and I help build the game, playing it, I'm very much a novice. Like when I play with the community, I learn a ton about their strategies and how they approach the game with the games that we work on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you talk about in that map? Because you've covered sort of the sidekicks, heroes. You've talked about matching powers to the tiles within a board. Can you talk about chains for a minute?
Yeah, so chains are these arrows here, and they show you the direction that you're passing damage. The basic idea is you're passing 10% of the damage from any hero to another hero, but it stacks. So this hero is passing 10 to here, which increases their damage, right? And here. This hero is also receiving damage from here. So there's not any really long chains going on here, but they're all kind of passing to each other in a circle, which means you're putting out a huge amount of damage potentially when you pass it on the chain. I can show this much better on dev, but I think Darren will kill me if I show the dev environment live.
And so part of the game mechanics, this is especially for hooligans, is it's not just about matching powers to tiles, and it's also not just about the perks that you can activate. It's sort of the intersection among the hero powers you have, whether there's singles or doubles, the extent to which they have a matching perk or not, where
That's
it's
right.
placed on the board, and if it's in a chain or not, and whether you have like a heavy damage hero in the middle of a chain, and then you have support heroes that are off chain. And a lot of this may be just terminology that hooligan fam you're not familiar with, but it's sort of it's revealing the complexity in something that is again deceptively simple. It is a put the hero on the tile where you get matches, but it actually can take a bit of time to come up with your best strategy when thinking about, well, I have some high DPS heroes, I have a chain where they match, I have support heroes that I want to put on other tiles to maximize DPS in the best way possible. So it does take a lot of thinking. And there's both and then I'll let you keep going, Mike. What's fascinating with this, maybe you could go to the high level map for a second. Sure. You know, there's both sort of like intra-board strategy, like you were just showing, but then we also have to think about inter-board strategy. So depending on the number and type of heroes you have, you're trying to think about placing those heroes optimally within one board, but then how does that impact the heroes that you can place on another board? And what do you want to try to maximize? Is it a little bit of Thule or token on both? Is it all in on one? Depending on what kind of board it is. So if it's a blade board, we know Tofu is just going to run away with it. And so you don't want to compete on it. There's a lot that it can get as complex as you want it to be as a player, which is really fun.
That's right. So choosing which boards to compete on, especially if you're trying to compete at the highest level, is really important. This is an interesting set of rewards that you can see. So this one gives you 133 Thule tokens. You need 1,000 to mint in the game. So obviously first place here would be a lot of Thule, but it's also got crafting reagents. So you can craft pieces of gear and weapons that you can put on your heroes to give them additional functionality. You can craft pieces of gear that give a second power to sidekicks as well. And this quest basically ensures that everybody's going to get a little bit of crafting material every day, which was a key component of this design. Not everybody gets Thule, so it's only 220 spots on any given quest. So you'll find specifically when you start playing really early on, Thule's hard to get, and that's by design, right? We have a lot of people are like, you should give out more Thule, and it's like, no. No, it should be hard to get. You should have to compete for it. It should be a rare resource. There's all kinds of other resources to play for too. You can see a leaderboard of not only the top 10 players, but nearby players to your ranking. Obviously, I'm not on that quest, but I'm on this one. I'm in 405th place on this quest. So you can see me at the very bottom posting up damage numbers. This is really helpful because it gives you a sense of the amount of damage you need to be doing to catch up to other players. And then quests also have a limited period of time. So as these wind down, you want to put quests or characters on quickly. You can also see that there's percentiles that go out for tokens. So these are power tokens that you can use to boost up the power of your character. And then you can equip gear on them like this. So I have 2 pieces of gear. This one gives you a 1.06x power bonus, which increases your damage, and you can attach that to a hero. If you do this and sell the hero, the gear goes along with it. And at the end of the season, this goes away. Any gear that's on a hero will go away, and you'll be left with a legacy bonus, which is a permanent multiplier that gets applied to that hero over. Cool.
That's perfect. So you're hovering over factions. Can you, maybe talk about comics and factions?
Sure. So every season we roll out a new set of factions. There are new sidekicks that you can pick up. This is a big deal for free-to-play players in particular, but for all players. The final reward in any faction is special, so this one has a perk on it. Perks are desirable. Some perks are more desirable than others based on the current meta of the game. But everyone's goal is kind of get at least to rank 16 on each faction every season. Again, these are sidekicks that you can pick up, so they're account-bound heroes, but they're still really rad. Like, these turned out great.
They're amazing.
Yeah, I thought so too. Like Pixelhead did himself. Summoners are a big favorite of mine too. I thought these turned out great. This one in particular.
That one is my favorite one. I just finished leveling factions to 16, and that was the favorite. That was my favorite of the 4.
Nice. Because of players like Ticklesnarf who level too fast, we put in these bonus ranks. So we have bonus ranks in place. So if you get past level 16, which a lot of players do because they earn a lot of faction experience, there are these grind levels that happen after rank 16 that you can get additional rewards for. We also recently created comics. Comics are a different class of NFTs, and the way that these work is that you can combine 1 to 4 comics onto a hero. You can change the skin of those heroes. So 1 comic turns them into a dinosaur, 4 comics turns them into a shark man. And then if you put 1 comic in, you boost each one of your power levels by 1 level. And if you put 4 in, you're boosting them all by 5. So it's a pretty big deal. You can move the comics around to types of skins that you could get for the hero. You could choose to do no skins and not transform the hero at all. Or you could transform them into any of the possible permutations that you put in for these heroes. So comics were a big success. That was our utility was good. The community agreed with it. We thought the art for that turned out great. You may notice MJ, if he's still in here, has a character that looks awfully similar to the main character in this comic. That's because MJ won a competition on Discord to have his character featured as the most prominent character in NFT comic, which is what we ended up doing. When you use comics, they get burnt to transform your hero. Our big focus with everything we do in Dimension X is to have utility. I never want a situation where somebody picks up either a hero or a comic and regrets their decision, right? So for us, Darren and I and the rest of the team really spent a lot of time talking about this, but how do we over deliver, right? At the very least, I want for people to feel good about if you've got to spend money to get access to a feature, I want it to be such a no-brainer that you're like, man, I'm glad I did that. This is another lesson from free-to-play games. The worst purchase that you can ever have a player make is one that they regret. Because then they not only won't play the game anymore, they'll badmouth it to other people who also won't play the game, right? And that's the worst thing you can do. Somebody likes the game enough to give you money, and they regret the decision so much that they stop playing the game. It is the worst thing you can do, so we're really focused on utility for that reason.
And what's amazing with, again, the way that you and the rest of the team really sort of like walk that out in terms of you want every purchase to be something that is enjoyable. You want the community to enjoy the game. You're responsive to community feedback. What's also really cool, just as a player and a community member, is you guys do a lot to sort of honor community members. So whether it's making one-of-ones for a lot of folks in the community, Ober and Punisher. For those who are kind of looking at different PFPs, you can see Ober and Punisher have these sort of golden heroes. They're part of like the Hall of Ancestors, just folks that have kind of been around or been contributing members to the community in some way, shape, or form that the team has decided. And they get sort of a free hero drop for the ETH release, which is just a cool way to be able to acknowledge the role that people will have in the Discord, the way that they've helped shape the game, or sort of the, pushing, promoting good vibes kind of thing.
That's right. I think one of the things I'm really focused on, like tonight, there are 49 people here, right? 49 people on what is it, Tuesday? Today Tuesday? It's Tuesday.
I think it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. I can't believe it's Wednesday. Wednesday.
I don't believe it, but I'll agree. So it's Wednesday. We've got 49 people here. If you had 49 people in your house right now, right? Like if they came to visit you, that would be the most people that have ever been in your house ever. I'd imagine it would be the most people that have ever been in my house. If those 49 people listened to you talk for an hour, that would also be probably the most that you've ever talked to, unless you do like conventions and conferences and stuff like that, right? So like this shit matters. How people spend time in Web3 on your project matters. So we want to honor and call that out. And it's really important to us, especially with the community members who are representing not only the characteristics that we like to see, but also characteristics that are important for a thriving community, right? Like it's not always easy. We get challenged a lot on our game design and our approach, but like you need to shine a light on those people and say you're an important part of the community. And we do that too. It's not, as I said, like feedback's not always easy to hear, but it's important to hear. So Hall of Ancestors was really designed to say, hey, for everybody that really contributed and played a huge role on Flow, we see you and we appreciate you. And we want to make sure that you stay with us, not only on the Flow side, but also on the Ethereum side too.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's great for I think everyone here to kind of hear that. So that we've heard a lot. I think from you, people have heard way too much from me. Maybe what we can do, about 12 minutes left. Maybe we can spend a few minutes having some folks. If you have questions, you can just sort of like raise your hand. We'll call you up to the stage if you've got any questions for Mike, and that can be whether you're a hooligan or from DMX. Probably almost everything is fair game. If you wanna ask indirectly Shelly about her favorite tacos, you can do that by just coming up here and you can voice it. That's fine.
And if nobody has questions, then we'll just do a duck race.
Yeah, that's right. So we've got, maybe while we're waiting for people to maybe raise their hand, do you want to talk about, so for the ETH drop, right? Yeah. So it's free. It's going to be a free to mint. There's going to be a little bit it's going to be a little different in terms of what rarity looks like. Do you want to even just as a little bit of alpha for the hooligan folks?
Oh God!
What does rarity look like?
It looks like
I opened it.
It looks like an incredibly complicated, long conversation with the community that's resulted in a rarity system that's much better than what we have on Flow. So we like everything else, we walked out our idea for rarity, and the community said, "Hey, we should change that. We have some feedback," and they did, and we did too. So we're midstream in it. There'll be a star system that's associated with heroes. The stars will represent the utility and the rarity of those heroes. Better heroes will essentially have more stars, and they'll be rare. It'll be very different from Dimension X on Flow. So if you see a legendary in Dimension X on Flow, it's not necessarily indicative of utility. If you see a legendary in Dimension X on Ethereum, oh boy, it's indicative of something good, at least something directionally good. The mint's on the 22nd, which is an important note. So we're doing an allow list raffle. You can put your name in to try and get on that raffle. We're doing tons of 1-for-1s. Like we're doing now, we're about to give those away. The raffle for submissions ends on the 14th. So that's coming up. It's right around the corner. So August the 14th, we'll end submissions for that raffle, and then we'll run it after the fact. But we're doing a ton of raffles in the meantime, including a new one, which we're going to be announcing here shortly around giving out a piece of comic art. Yeah, so we're going to work with our comic artist, piece of comic art based on characters that folks have in their collections. So expect to see an announcement on Discord for that in the near term.
That was, and then one more thing, since you posted the duck, can you talk about the streams where people where Pixel creates and you know what, because I think that's another cool aspect of how you guys interact with the community is in creating and distributing new heroes.
Yeah. So we do art streams every week, except for this week. Our Pixel artist is taking a well-deserved vacation. But every week we usually jump on a stream together, and he'll stream the creation of a new NFT from scratch live, and we'll do those things together. So here's some examples of what those have looked like historically. I think they've turned out great. But yeah, we will do those streams. Yeah, that's Shelly just posted one. That's Murphy Clown. And we created those things because we were joking about Murphy Brown in stream. So that's how that character got created. So we'll create the art from scratch. We create a new NFT to somebody who's watching the stream that week. It's super fun. It's way more laid back. It's less like design heavy lifting, and it's more just like come and kick it, watch art get created. Sometimes we talk about Web3 stuff. Sometimes we don't. But I think we have over 400 as a part of the Dimension X collection currently. So we try and make as many as we can. I feel like that's one of the most special parts about Web3 is collecting. And we really go through a lot of custom artwork. I think it's a good way to honor the community too. That Cactus Man, I think that one was for you, right?
Yeah, it's the Cactar. Because you had messaged me of just like, hey, what kind of like comic video game stuff you like? And I was like, you know, the Cactar from Final Fantasy VII. You know, I like Buster Swords. You know, Mario, all this stuff. And then next thing I knew, got that rad Cactar who stole Cloud's Buster Sword. That's my favorite NFT.
That's right. And Fizzy, you may recognize his Flow PFP in chat. This is his Robo PFP for Ethereum. So we've got Robo.
Oh, man, that's incredible.
Yeah, Robo Fizzy for Ethereum and regular Fizzy for Flow.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And Tofu made a really good point in the chat. He said it's not just about the art that comes out. It's about how good Pixel draws them within a short amount of time. And that really is true. Like, it's incredible in such a, what is it, usually like 30, 40 minutes, and or maybe 60 minutes, he just bangs these out in the art streams. It's incredibly impressive.
Yeah, and he can carry a conversation, joke around through it, which still is stunning to me every time. So yeah, he's the best. The streams are really fun. They're really laid back. Like one of the things that we try and do with the community is be consistent, right? The person I am on Discord with the community is the person I am when I'm home with my wife. It's the person I am when I talk to my neighbors, the person I am when I talk to my parents, right? You need that consistency is important to me. And I think we try and have a much more familial Discord as a result. It feels like people know each other. They give a shit about each other, and we give a shit about them. And I'm proud like outside of the game and the accomplishments that we've had there, I'm extraordinarily proud of what we built together in Discord and the community that we built together, because it really is a community.
It really is. Well, thanks, Mike, for taking time to talk with us. For the hooligans that are in the chat, if you want to participate in the raffle for the free ETH NFT, if you go to NFT Spotlight channel, there's sort of a permalink there. You can join that. Would recommend you join the Dimension X Discord, participate in some of the art streams, check out the different giveaways that are going on there. And we're going to do one of those giveaways right now. So I don't remember the origin of when the duck race started in Dimension X, but duck races for giving away NFT heroes has been something. Is that in the last like 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks? Or
yeah, I think so. We were doing a random drawing, and people were like, hey, why don't you do something a little bit more transparent? And we were like, well, you want to do a duck race? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, great, let's do that. Shelly was asking if she could join the duck race. I don't have any issue with it if you don't.
Sure. Yeah, I'll add you in. Why not?
There you go, Shelly. Good luck. Yeah, people were thinking the giveaways were rigged, that we were just giving NFTs to our favorite people. So we decided to do a more transparent approach.
All right. So with that, I think, can people see the stream? Which of course it's going to work for this is the most important part. So I'm glad at least my screen's working for that. So Shelly sent me a list of participants who came in. We're gonna run this for 1 minute, and the winner, when we call you out, I will reach out to you and get your ETH address, and you'll be added. This will get. Is this right, Mike? It'll get airdropped the day before mint.
That's right. You'll get these on the 21st. That's by the way, like that's my favorite. I get excited talking about it. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to airdrop all these custom NFTs and you're going to get these cool ass NFT. Like I get very excited about it. I'm pumped.
That's awesome.
So yeah, for sure.
All right. NFTs is up to ask a question. While he's doing that, we're going to start this duck race. Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
No.
It was actually just a comment. If you guys want a code for the DMX guys, you wanted to raffle one off to play the game in the next 30 minutes or so, I can DM you a code, Tickle.
Yeah. Do that. Thanks.
Perfect. Cool. All right. Great chat so far, guys. I'm listening in. I'll disconnect.
Thank you very much. All right. Let's see who we got the winner.
Oh, Shelly Clown Shoes.
Shelly Clown Shoes. That's so good. Dark Ghost looking good. NFTs is looking good. Mr. Wildfire is looking all right. Crypto Jammin' looking great. Dustin Hopman.
I think Tofu's gonna end up pulling up. I think Tofu's gonna end up crushing it at the end.
It's 30 seconds left. You got Schlander. Keegan's looking pretty good out there. Let's see. What's up? Moving in from the back.
What the hell?
Yeah, I think DFS is going to come in from the back. Oh my God! What the hell? Pulling away from the pack. Ooh, it's tight. GIX aches. Neck and neck. 10 seconds left.
Weeby's going to make a push.
Weeby from the back. Oh my God! Weeby's pulling away with it. And 1 second left.
Yeah, Weeby. That's awesome. Congrats, Weeby.
Weeby, congrats, dude. That was exciting. All right.
No, awesome. All right, Weeby, I think we're friends. If not, I'll send you a friend request and get me your ETH address, and you will get one of these DMX, MPH. Sorry, too many acronyms. An MPH inspired DMX hero. Thanks, Mike, for joining. Yeah. Appreciate you coming out. Thanks to all the DMX family for coming out and supporting the space tonight. Any last words before we leave?
Not at all.
Right.
I think check out Dimension X, and thank you for having me, man.
All right, thanks for coming up. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.